Welcome to Voyage Daily Tech, the most important news personalized for you every day, supported by Voyage.com.
After listening to today's news, you'll know first Telegram's founder runs a billion-user platform like a monarch, creating a libertarian dictator paradox and major systemic risk. So we'll discuss why this one-man governance matters and what it means for the platform's fragility and its 1 billion users. Second, Tesla's European sales plummet by a third as Chinese rivals like BYD triple, capturing the EV and hybrid markets. We'll explore how this pincer movement from Chinese brands and a resurgent hybrid market could transform Europe's EV competitive landscape. Third, Google's $4.75 billion energy acquisition is a strategic play to build a private utility to win the AI arms race. Today, we'll take a closer look at this vertical integration strategy and its implications for accelerating data center deployment by years. Fourth, US H-1B visa crackdown using AI social media scans pushes tech giants to shift high-skilled jobs to Canadian R&D hubs. We'll examine how these new hurdles may impact US innovation by making it harder for startups to hire global early career talent. Fifth, Waymo's Robotaxi fleet freezes across San Francisco during a power outage, revealing a critical brittle system flaw in its AI. In this episode, we'll break down this real-world stress test and what it signals for autonomous systems built on aging city infrastructure. A new biography of Telegram's founder, Pavel Durov, the product of a 14-year effort to understand him, paints a stunning picture of contradictions. The platform with over 1 billion users was built on a promise of absolute freedom, yet Durov runs his empire like an absolute monarch. The author, Nikolai Kononov, says that behind the libertarian image, Durov's management style is the exact opposite. His direct quote, "He is essentially the only one making all the product decisions at Telegram. It's a one-man show." This dynamic creates what some experts are calling the libertarian dictator paradox. And this centralized structure, it poses a huge systemic risk. With 1 billion users, having a single point of failure in one man's unchallengeable decisions is incredibly fragile. Unlike the encrypted messenger Signal, which is run by a non-profit foundation with a board, or decentralized platforms like Mastodon, Telegram's structure is the polar opposite, concentrating all that power in one person. The author had unprecedented access, drawing on years of conversations with Durov himself. But when he asked one critical question about the contradiction between Telegram's authoritarian structure and its free speech mission, Durov went silent. He cut off all contact. And perhaps we can see why he'd avoid that question. In reality, while Telegram waves the flag of absolute free speech, its actions suggest a more pragmatic, self-serving approach. Research shows that to keep the platform operational, Telegram has made significant compromises with governments. In Germany, it blocked over 60 channels linked to hate speech, and in Brazil, it complied with Supreme Court orders to block accounts spreading disinformation, all to avoid being shut down. This is where the situation takes a more complex turn. The book reveals for the first time a tense, closed-door meeting in 2014 where President Vladimir Putin allegedly reprimanded Durov, suggesting he leave Russia. Durov did, founding Telegram in exile. By fleeing and setting up shop in Dubai, he created a deliberately stateless platform. This identity is both a shield and a vulnerability. The shield is that he can try to evade any single country's regulations, but the vulnerability is that he lacks the protection a home country might offer. You might think that would make him a firm ally of the West. You'd be wrong. His recent detention in France, a country where he holds citizenship, seems to have completely changed his perspective. After being held for 3 days, a rattled Durov began framing Europe as sliding toward total digital control. This is a tech mogul who compares himself to visionaries like Elon Musk and has reportedly fathered dozens of children through sperm donation. And that comparison to Musk is more than skin deep. Both are what you might call digital populists. They use their platforms for direct, unfiltered communication, bypassing traditional media to build a personal, almost cult-like following. This strategy is powerful, but it also raises serious concerns about creating echo chambers where they hold unaccountable power. And while the biographer found no evidence that Durov is secretly working for the Russian state, he did uncover a core operating principle from Durov himself. Durov once told him, "I never waste time on things that are unnecessary or that cannot be useful to me personally." And that single sentence may be the key to understanding everything from the platform's design to its founders' unpredictable actions. Speaking of powerful, and sometimes controversial tech visionaries, Elon Musk's Tesla is facing a major storm in Europe. Its new car registrations plummeted by a third in November, shrinking its market share from 2.1% down to just 1.4%. We're seeing Tesla stumbling while at the same time its Chinese rivals are taking a completely different path and absolutely exploding onto the scene. The car maker BYD saw its registrations across Europe nearly triple year on year. Meanwhile, the Chinese state-owned SAIC, which owns the MG brand, recorded a 26% sales increase, pushing its sales to over 217,000 vehicles. But these numbers don't tell the whole story. This isn't just about price. Chinese automakers are executing a full-stack invasion of the European market. For example, BYD is a technology leader with its own proprietary Blade battery that offers major advantages in safety and performance. They are playing the long game, even building local manufacturing plants in Hungary to get around tariffs. But here's the twist. This isn't happening in a dying electric car market. The opposite is true. Overall sales of battery electric cars are up, now accounting for nearly 19% of the entire market. Tesla, the only pure electric brand tracked, is the one falling behind. And the plot thickens. The real winners right now are hybrid cars, the ones that mix a battery with a gas engine. They now account for a staggering 44% of all sales. What really brought this to a head was a major policy shift from the EU. After successful lobbying from European car makers, the EU confirmed it will allow a portion of car sales to have internal combustion engines even after 2035. This delay tactic is a huge strategic win for legacy automakers, but it's also creating a massive opening for Chinese brands like BYD, which are masters of producing both advanced EVs and popular hybrids. This all begs the question, what's going on with Tesla? The company's sales slowdown coincides directly with a period where Elon Musk began intervening in European politics, publicly backing Germany's far-right alternative for Deutschland, and the data suggests this is having a real-world impact. One recent report showed Tesla's European sales dropping by nearly half in early 2025, even as the overall EV market grew. In Germany specifically, Tesla registrations fell a staggering 41%. A Morgan Stanley survey even found that 85% of investors believe Musk's political activities are having a negative impact on the business. The bottom line is this. As the electric vehicle race heats up in Europe, the original trailblazer is getting squeezed from all sides. Tesla is facing ascendant Chinese rivals, a resurgent hybrid market, and a shifting political tide that is actively rewriting the rules of the game. While the battle for the EV market is heating up on the roads of Europe, an even bigger, more expensive war is being fought over the future of AI. The AI arms race just revealed its staggering price tag, with OpenAI alone making over $1.4 trillion in infrastructure commitments, and now Google is firing back. Google's parent company Alphabet just dropped $4.75 billion in cash to acquire Intersect, an energy infrastructure company. To understand the strategy here, you have to look past the price tag. Most tech companies sign power purchase agreements, or PPAs, to buy electricity. But Google's going a step further. By buying the entire energy developer, they're achieving vertical integration. They don't just want to buy the power, they want to own and control the entire supply chain. This gives them a massive competitive edge over rivals who are still just customers of the power grid. The battle for AI supremacy comes down to one thing: raw power. And the scale of this demand is just staggering. For instance, experts project that by 2030, AI-driven data centers could be consuming more electricity than all of America's energy-intensive manufacturing combined. Interestingly enough, it's not just about electricity. It's also about water. A single medium-sized data center can use around 300,000 gallons of water every single day for cooling the same amount as 1,000 American households. This acquisition isn't a new relationship, but a massive escalation. Google is now taking full control to accelerate its expansion, building new power generation in lockstep with new data centers. So the real prize here isn't just cost, it's speed. For competitors, getting a new data center approved and then connected to the grid can be a nightmare. In some areas, just getting the grid connection can take up to 10 years. By owning the entire process, Google can build both simultaneously, potentially cutting years off their deployment time, and the numbers reveal the sheer scale of this build out. The move complements Google's existing $40 billion investment in Texas and Intersect's own $20 billion plan for renewable power. This acquisition makes one thing crystal clear. The war for the future of AI is no longer just being fought with algorithms and code. It is a ground war being fought over concrete, steel, and control of the power grid. Ultimately, this acquisition signals a new era of what some are calling data and energy sovereignty. We are watching tech companies become, in effect, their own private utility providers as they build these massive independent power systems. They become critical pieces of national infrastructure operating outside the public grid we all rely on. This is a fundamental shift in who controls our energy and our data. All that hardware, the data centers and power grids is useless without the human talent to build the AI that runs on it. And that's where our next story takes a sharp turn as the US government makes it harder to hire that very talent. It just announced it's reviewing the online presence of every single H-1B and H-4 visa applicant. Now, get this. This isn't a person manually scrolling through your photos. US authorities are deploying AI-powered tools to conduct these reviews, scanning for keywords and sentiments across platforms like Facebook and LinkedIn. The problem is, these algorithms often struggle with cultural context, which experts warn could lead to a high rate of false positives, unfairly flagging innocent applicants. The policy is already causing chaos, with some visa appointments in India being pushed back by months. But that's not the whole picture. The social media check is just the beginning of a massive crackdown. A proposed wage protection law is on the table that would substantially increase prevailing wages, and a new weighted lottery system is in final review that would prioritise the highest paid workers. The situation presents a fascinating duality. On one side, it favours large corporations that can afford top dollar salaries for senior experts, while on the other, it could effectively kneecap innovative startups that depend on attracting promising early career talent. Historically, immigrants have founded a huge number of America's most successful tech companies, and this move could stifle that pipeline. So who is in the direct line of fire? Indian applicants, who make up over 70% of H-1B recipients, and their top employers: Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, and Google. So naturally, these companies aren't just sitting back and taking it. In response, tech giants like Microsoft and Amazon are already executing a Plan B geo-strategy, pouring billions into R&D hubs in Canada, where programs like the Global Talent Stream offer 2-week visa processing. The political reasoning has been made explicit. JD Vance stated his government has worked to restrict H-1B visas to prevent companies from bypassing American labour. When the administration talks about curbing abuse, they are primarily targeting IT consulting firms or body shops. However, critics argue these broad new rules fail to differentiate that model from a product company like Google searching for a world-class expert. And this all happens as competitor nations like Canada, the UK, and Germany are rolling out the red carpet. They are creating new tech visas and high potential pathways designed specifically to attract the exact high-skilled workers that the US is making it harder to hire. It's becoming a global talent arbitrage, a competition for the world's best and brightest minds. While the global competition for tech talent is reshaping where companies build their R&D back in the US, another kind of friction is playing out on the streets of San Francisco. Imagine this: self-driving Robotaxis, the cars of the future, suddenly frozen in the middle of intersections, hazard lights flashing. This wasn't just a glitch. Videos flooded social media showing Waymo cars creating gridlock. This is actually a perfect example of what experts call unintended human-robot choreography. The AI made what it thought was the safest move stopping, but that safe choice forced human drivers into unpredictable and dangerous improvisation, swerving around these new static obstacles. The cause? A massive power outage from a substation fire that knocked out power for over 100,000 customers. Waymo says its cars are designed to handle broken traffic lights, which reveals a deep design philosophy: the caution versus confidence dilemma. Waymo's system is built to be extremely cautious, so its default is to stop. This is very different from a competitor like Tesla's full self-driving, which aims to be more assertive. But here's the bombshell. Based on the company's own statement, the sheer scale of the outage was too much. What this reveals is a lack of something engineers call graceful degradation. Instead of a catastrophic failure where everything just stops, a robust system should be able to degrade gracefully, maybe by slowing down or finding a safe place to pull over. But this network was brittle. When one part of the city's infrastructure failed, the whole AV system shattered. The cars got stuck, remaining stationary longer than usual and directly contributing to the congestion. The situation escalated to the point where Waymo had to pause its entire service in the Bay Area and city officials had to deploy police and fire crews to manage traffic. After all, there's a regulatory gap here. Current rules don't fully address what happens when a private robotaxi fleet worsens a public emergency. This was a real-world stress test that the autonomous technology failed. The real takeaway here is that this isn't just a Waymo problem. It's the Achilles heel of the entire smart city vision. We're building these futuristic technologies on top of legacy infrastructure, like a power grid that can be a century old. This incident reveals that deep dependency, raising the question of who should pay to make our foundational infrastructure resilient enough for the robot future. The tech companies benefiting from it, or the public that's left stranded when it fails?
That's it for today on Voyage Daily Tech. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.